Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are going way back.
Way back.
Millions of years.
Uh-huh.
To hang out with Lucy.
Sounds fun.
And her neighbors.
Oh, interesting.
You've sent over some seriously interesting articles about this.
I did.
And let me tell you.
Okay.
The neighborhood is a lot more crowded than we once thought.
Yeah.
You already know Lucy, Racy.
I do, yes.
Australopithecus afarensis.
Yeah.
The rock star fossil that had everyone rethinking our origin.
That's right.
Well, get this.
Okay.
She wasn't holding court alone.
Really?
Turns out a whole bunch of other hominins were strutting their stuff
Okay.
around the same time.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is, yeah.
For quite a while, the prevailing theory
Right.
was that human evolution
Yeah.
was a one-lane highway,
Okay.
one species at a time.
Right, yeah. Like a relay race.
Right, like a relay race of
But,
evolution.
yeah.
Pass the baton
Yeah.
onto the next species.
Exactly. This whole idea was rooted in something
Oh, here we go.
called competitive exclusion.
Yeah.
The thought that two similar species vying for the same resources couldn't both make it in the long run.
Right.
It makes sense if you think about it. Like, if you put 100 squirrels in a park
Okay, yeah.
with only enough acorns for 50.
Half of them are going hungry.
Right.
And eventually you're down to 50 squirrels.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And for a while, the fossil record seemed to support this idea of a straight line of ancestry.
Yeah.
Then Lucy came along.
Cue the dramatic music.
Exactly.
Okay, so for anyone who needs a quick recap,
Okay.
Lucy's this super famous fossil,
Uh-huh.
3.2 million years old,
Right.
discovered back in the 70s.
Yes.
She was a total game changer.
It's huge. Yeah.
But why?
Well, she had this fascinating mix of features, a real blend of ape-like and human-like characteristics.
Okay.
What really threw everyone for a loop, though,
Yeah.
was that she was walking upright on two legs,
What?
just like us, but with a brain size more comparable to a chimpanzee's.
So walking upright came before our big brains.
Yeah, it was a major revelation. Before Lucy, the oldest hominin fossils we had were about 2.5 million years old.
Oh, wow.
A species called Australopithecus africanus,
Okay.
found in South Africa.
Okay.
Lucy's discovery pushed the timeline back by almost a million years
Wow.
and showed that bipedalism, walking upright, wasn't something that just popped up alongside a big human-like brain.
Right.
It happened way earlier.
Okay, so we've got Lucy.
Yep.
She's walking around Africa over 3 million years ago.
Right.
But here's the thing, and this is where your deep dive request comes in.
Oh, good.
She wasn't alone. What you sent me about the other hominins living alongside her
Yeah.
just blew my mind.
Oh, wow.
So tell me, who else was hanging out with Lucy back then?
Well, hold on to your hats
Okay.
because we're about to meet the neighbors.
Yeah.
And trust me, they're a fascinating bunch.
Okay.
One of the oldest on the block is Australopithecus burrell-ghazali,
Okay.
discovered in Chad back in 1995.
Okay.
This one is even older than Lucy,
What?
clocking in around 3.5 million years old.
Wow. Older than Lucy.
I know.
Already the family tree is getting more complicated. What else have we got?
Next up, we've got Kenyanthropus platypus,
I love these names.
also around 3.5 million years old, discovered in Kenya in 2001.
Okay.
This one caused quite a stir because of its, how do I put this delicately, its strikingly flat face.
Hence the name Platyops.
Yes.
Platy meaning flat.
You got it. Of course, all we have to go on is one pretty crushed skull.
Little-
So there's still a ton of debate about what Kenyanthropus actually looked like.
Right.
Was its flat face a unique adaptation or just a result of, well, being stepped on for a few million years? We're still figuring that one out.
Okay, so we've got a flat-faced mystery guest. This is why I love paleoanthropology.
Oh.
Every answer seems to unearth even more questions. What else you got?
Get this, a 3.4 million year old foot, also from Ethiopia. But here's the kicker. This foot had a divergent big toe.
Okay, now that's just weird. You mean like a gorilla's big toe.
Right.
Made for grabbing branches.
Exactly. It suggests a hominin who was spending a lot of time in the trees.
Okay.
Unlike Lucy, who seemed more at home on the ground.
So we've got upright walkers, tree climbers.
Right.
And then there's Australopithecus diarmida. That article you sent mentioned their jaws were discovered pretty recently, right?
Right. Found in Ethiopia in 2015, dating back to between 3.3 and 3.5 million years ago. It's fascinating how many different hominin species were living in the same general area around the same time.
It's like a prehistoric block party.
I know, right?
But seriously, how did they all manage to live alongside each other without, driving each other to extinction? weren't they all competing for the same food, water, resources?
That's the million-dollar question, and the answer probably lies in those ecological niches we were talking about earlier. Think about it like this. You go to a big music festival, right? You've got hundreds, maybe thousands of people all sharing the same space.
And surviving on questionable street food.
Right. But somehow it works because even though everyone's at the same festival, they're not all into the same things.
Right.
Some are there for the headliners, others for the indie bands, others just to people watch.
So are you saying these different hominins were like musical genres, each with their own fan base?
Exactly. Each species probably carved out its own niche within the environment. They might have eaten different foods, lived in different types of terrain,
Okay.
grasslands versus forests, for example,
Okay.
or even had different activity patterns.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe some were more active during the day, while others were up at night, avoiding direct competition.
And this whole niche thing makes even more sense when you consider where these fossils are popping up.
Right.
That article about Warranso Mill in Ethiopia was amazing. So many different hominins, all in one spot.
It's an incredibly rich site, and what's fascinating is that Warranso Mill seems to have been a much more diverse environment than, say, Hadar, where Lucy was found.
Right.
A wider range of habitats means more potential niches for different hominin species to occupy.
Okay, so multiple hominins all doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the big question, and I know you've been dying to ask it.
Mm-hmm.
Does this whole prehistoric party change how we think about Lucy's place in our family tree?
It's the question that keeps every paleoanthropologist up at night. It's like trying to put together a puzzle where half the pieces are still missing. We know Lucy was a big deal.
Right.
She pushed back the timeline for bipedalism, challenged old assumptions.
Right, no small feat. But is she our great-great-great-grandmother or just a distant cousin?
That's what we're still trying to figure out.
Right.
Remember, we have hundreds of fossils of Lucy's species, Australopithecus, afarensis, spanning about 800,000 years. That gives us a lot of data points to work with. But for these other hominins from the same time period, we're talking a handful of fossils for each one.
So it's kind of early to be rewriting the textbooks just yet.
Exactly. It's like trying to reconstruct a movie with only a few scattered frames. You might get a general sense of the plot, but you're definitely missing some key scenes.
Until those missing fossils turn up. I guess Lucy's still got the spotlight.
For now, yes. She remains a crucial piece of the puzzle, and everything we're learning about these other hominins just adds to her legacy. It shows us that human evolution wasn't a simple straight line,
Right.
but a more complex story.
Yeah.
With multiple characters and plot twists we're only just beginning to uncover.
I don't know about you, but I am completely hooked.
Yeah.
So with all this new information coming to light, what's the big takeaway here? If our listeners could walk away remembering just one thing from this whole discussion, what would it be? So if I'm wrapping my head around this right, the big takeaway is that human evolution wasn't a straight line,
Yep.
but more like a tangled bush,
Yep.
with branches going every which way.
That's a great way to put it. And the really exciting thing is that each new discovery,
Yeah,
whether it's a tooth, a jaw, or a whole skeleton,
right.
has the potential to shake up our understanding of those branches.
It really makes you wonder what else is out there,
I know, right?
buried beneath our feet,
Yeah.
just waiting to be found.
And that's why I love this field. We're constantly refining the story of our origins. Take Warranso Mill, for example. The research happening there is giving us an unprecedented glimpse into this incredibly dynamic period of hominin evolution when Lucy and her counterparts were sharing the landscape.
It's like each new dig site
Yeah.
is a time machine,
Right.
taking us further back into our own past.
Exactly.
So to bring it all home for our listeners today, what does all this mean?
Well,
We've met Lucy's neighbors,
yeah.
learned about their diverse lifestyles,
Right.
but why does it matter?
Because it challenges us to rethink those old assumptions about human evolution. It reminds us that our lineage isn't a simple linear progression.
Right.
From ape-like ancestor to modern human. It's a story full of detours, dead ends, and unexpected connections.
And maybe, just maybe, it makes us appreciate how remarkable it is that we're even here at all.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all those hominin species,
Right.
ours is the one that ultimately made it to the 21st century.
I know. It makes you think about all the chance encounters, environmental shifts, and evolutionary quirks that had to happen for our species to emerge as the sole survivors.
And it makes you wonder, what if just one thing had gone differently?
Right.
What if that flat-faced Kenyanthropus platyops had flourished instead of fading away? What would our world look like today?
It's crazy. Now, those are questions we might never have answers to,
Yeah.
but they're the kind of questions that keep us exploring, digging, and piecing together the story of our past, one fossil at a time.
A story that, as we've learned today, is far more complex and fascinating than we ever imagined. Thanks for diving into the deep end with us today, listeners. We'll leave you with that image. A prehistoric landscape,
Yeah.
teeming with life, where multiple human species walk the earth side by side. It's a humbling thought and one that I hope stays with you long after this deep dive is over. Until next time, keep those minds curious.